Joining us now, Scott Surovell, state senator, newly elected, went from the House to the Senate. That's pretty cool. And he went from being in the huge minority, where Bill Howell is king, to just a tiny minority, where it's only 21-19. We want to know what's different between being in the House and the Senate. Joining us now, newly elected state senator from Fairfax, part of the Chap Peterson gang. The boys are back in town. Scott Surovell. Hey, Senator, good to have you, man.
Hey, John, good to be on your show. Great day for you yesterday with Trump picking up Sarah Palin.
Oh, well, it was definitely, he's going to win Iowa, no question about it. You know, Palin, the shine has gone off the apple, no question. I mean, she's not on Fox News. She's not an elected official, but she does have a following, there's no question. And she brandishes Trump's evangelical backing, which has been very soft. But the real news yesterday in Iowa was Iowa Governor Terry Branstad saying, don't elect Cruz in Iowa, defeat Cruz in Iowa. He's bad for Iowans. That's a disaster for Cruz, governor, very popular. Trump's going to win Iowa. By the way, we're going to be there in Iowa, live in Des Moines, Monday and Tuesday, February 1st and 2nd at, where are we? Java Joe's one day, and one day we're at CJ's Bagels. I don't know why they got me there. They said that's where the action, and right downtown in Des Moines, we'll be bringing you all the action. Senator, so good to have you with us. Let's go just big picture. You've served in the House for some time. You've been in leadership. Now you go to the Senate. You're 6 days in. Biggest difference?
Well, you know, I'm still getting used to being there. We haven't, you know, we're just starting to get into making sausage. But I mean, one of the things that's become very apparent to me from the beginning is it's such a smaller body. Everybody knows each other so well, and we are so close, 21-19, that you know, people tends to be, I think, a little less political of a body. You know, you never know when you're going to need one or two votes from the other side, and it's less. There's less steamrolling going on, you know. I mean, in the House of Delegates, you know, the majority sort of does what they want. It's pretty rare that they ever need support from our side to get anything done, and so, you know, things tend to work a little bit different over there than they do in the Senate. That's one thing I've noticed. Right. You know, being a senator, though, I mean, the districts are so much larger. I think people don't. It's hard to appreciate until you get into it. But I mean, you know, I've gone from representing one county to three, plus three more towns, and you get a lot more people pulling on you in different directions, and trying to balance that out. It's a lot different than representing 80,000 people in a really tight little area.
Well, and I know also from your history that you take constituent services at home very, very seriously, and you're always accessible to your constituents, and that's a good thing. I want to get to some of the topics coming up, and I just want to get this off my chest. I was appalled the other day that your effort to so-called decriminalize
adultery
in Virginia, adultery in Virginia, to basically just turn it into a civil misdemeanor. You had the backing of some of the religious groups in the area. Right now, it's you know, it's a $250 fine. Adultery doesn't have anything to do with the government. It's between man and woman. They got to go figure that out. I'm not involved. But there were other issues with this that have to do with custody battles and taking the fifth. I was appalled that this got shot down and you couldn't even get out of committee. I mean, what is going on in there?
Yeah, you know, I think people are just uncomfortable with the concept. You know, the optics look a little weird, but you know, the reality of it is, you know, I brought this bill 3 times. I brought it twice in the House. Once I got a real hearing. The second time, not really. And then this year, I was hoping that the Senate Courts Committee would look at it a little differently. But you know, the reality is adultery is a Class 4 misdemeanor in Virginia, which means the maximum penalty is $250. You can't go to jail for it. No prosecutor, you know, police officer ever brings a charge for it. Yeah, they were able to document there were actually 6 prosecutions for it in the last 10 years. I'm not really clear how that ever happened. Probably somebody going down to the magistrate and making a complaint, and the magistrate just issuing a warrant. But the reality of what happens is that when somebody's accused in a divorce case, they can just take the fifth with impunity, them or the boyfriend or the girlfriend or whoever, it ends up just running up the cost and stretching the litigation out, and it just makes the parties spin their wheels and spend more money on divorce than they need to, and it's stupid. I mean, I just thought that if we could decriminalize it, make it a civil infraction, people can't take the fifth anymore, and people would be held accountable for their behavior, which is why the Family Foundation supported me. The Family Law Coalition, which is, like 4 different bar associations, divorce lawyers that pull together and make recommendations, they've supported every single year. Not a single person stood up and spoke in opposition to it this year. Actually, the Commonwealth attorneys had opposed it previously, but I took care of them. Nobody opposed it. I'm not really clear why. I got a bunch of questions. I thought I answered them all. But I'm going to try again next year and see if I can get it through next year. It's one of these old laws in the books that we need to get rid of. That's just been there too long. We got rid of lewd and lascivious cohabitation 2 years ago. We restricted sodomy to matters involving children so that adults weren't picked up in it. Consensual behavior a couple of years ago. Fornication was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. It's something that needs to come off the books.
Well, this is just a lot of nonsense where the government has been meddling in people's personal lives. I mean, I don't tend to I never judge what goes on between a man and a woman in a marriage. They'll figure it out. But certainly the government shouldn't be involved in the middle of it, except when, like you say, there's a separation proceeding, there's child custody issues. Then obviously the courts and the government have to get involved. And what your bill basically did was decouple that. So if that's part of the decree, if that's part of the custody battle or something else, or the alimony battle, that the person can't take the fifth, and it is what it is, and then a jury or a judge will decide. But $250 fines and having it as a misdemeanor, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, I tell you what, it's another reason why people are just fed up with the government nonsense that goes on. Why they're involved in things like that is beyond me. We're with Scott Surovell, state senator, Democrat, Fairfax. He represents the 36th State Senate District of Virginia. Scott, I want to get to, we've got dueling press conferences today. The VHHA has one, the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association has one at, the Republicans have one following at 11 a.m. The Republicans looking to repeal the Certificate of Public Need, COPN, and I think that's a bad idea. I've listed the reasons out. How do you stand on it, and why?
Well, I haven't seen the proposals that have been made yet, but I was playing basketball with some guys last night and heard there was going to be a press conference today about it. This is an area where we have to tread very carefully, because basically what you have is there's a lot of groups that want to come in and sort of cherry pick the most profitable services out of hospitals and sort of leave the hospitals with all the stuff that nobody wants, and all the people that can't pay for their procedures, and all the Medicaid work and Medicare work. And our hospitals are already struggling as it is right now. And we've always had a very highly regulated system to make sure that that the system works and doesn't become dysfunctional and incredibly expensive. And there are situations, I think, where we ought to look at it, but the way our system is set up right now, I really feel like we ought to approach this on a sort of case-by-case basis, or area by area basis, instead of some one-size-fits-all just junk COPN. If we look at it, and I just haven't looked at what they've proposed, but a lot of people just don't realize that if you want to build a new hospital, you got to go to one of these panels and get permission. If you want to make a major investment, like buy a big, multi-million-dollar MRI machine, or some of the technology that's being used to diagnose people today is incredibly expensive, and they don't want people overcommitting and buying way too many of those either. I mean, we're highly regulated for a reason, and we have to tread carefully. And I think a lot of people have sort of grasped onto this as sort of government healthcare regulation and want to just junk it all. But you have to be very careful, or else our healthcare system could fall apart. And if we end up not having enough competition, things can get too expensive. If we have too much competition, then quality of care goes down. I mean, we have to be very careful here, and I'm still looking at it.
Well, look, Senator, the idea of repealing the Certificate of Public Need, which a couple of Republicans are behind right now, led by House member and Dr. John O'Bannon, their argument is free competition and free market, which is an absurd argument to me because the hospitals are the most regulated industry in the country. They mandate, there's all kinds of unfunded mandates that they have to get involved in, like indigent care and offering services like trauma centers that are highly unprofitable, delivering babies highly unprofitable. And basically, if you eliminate COPN, big money healthcare agencies can come into an area and cherry pick and profiteer on only the most profitable systems like MRI and digital analysis and things like that. This is the only area that hospitals make money on. They're going to cherry pick that, which is going to put hospitals at financial risk. I mean, it's a intellectually disingenuous argument because we don't operate in a free competitive environment, a free market environment. So I think we're on the same page on that. I want to get to Judge Roush. We all know the story behind it. The Republican is not happy with her selection by Governor McAuliffe, but now brand new Republican member of Senate, Republican conservative, Glenn Sturtevant, who's on the Courts Committee, comes out in favor of Roush and maintaining her as judge and saying, hey, she's done a good job. She's perfectly qualified. Why make a change now? What say you?
Yeah, this one is a real difficult decision. I've known Judge Roush since I started practicing law 19 and a half years ago, and she's a great judge, always has been. Everybody in Fairfax loves her. She's been well liked across the state, handled some of the most difficult cases that we've had. You know, the Supreme Court assigned her to do the Malvo Muhammad trial. She did that, didn't get reversed. Was lauded for her transparency in that case and her decision making. I mean, not a single person's quibbled with her qualifications, and so it's upsetting to a lot of people that some people have chosen to make an issue out of this. I mean, we're talking about upsetting 115 years of precedent, and some of us feel like the complaints are a little disingenuous here. I mean, when Governor Payne elevated Justice Millett about 8 years ago, he didn't consult with the Republicans, and they raised some issues with it for a few days. Eventually, Morgan Griffith and the Speaker relented back then, but I think the Speaker and the Majority Leader, Senator Norment, they have a bit more animosity for this governor than they did for Governor Kane, and I think that you see that playing out. But I don't know if you saw yesterday, but the election of a judge on the State Corporation Commission got held up on the floor because of this, and it's at least I think that was what happened. It's not really clear; it's kind of fuzzy, but the reality of this situation is when you change 115 years of precedent, it muddies the waters, it stirs things up, and people aren't used to dealing like that on these kinds of matters. We need to keep politics out of the judiciary as much as we can, and injecting a partisan battle right in the middle of a judge pick like this is just not something we're used to in Virginia. It's not how we do things, and I think you see a lot of people reacting to that, including Senator Sturtevant. I read his statement. That was kind of how he felt, and he's a practicing trial lawyer. He goes to court all the time. He's a litigator, and Delegate Sullivan sent around a letter the other day to all the lawyers in the body saying, we as lawyers need to look out and keep politics out of our judicial branch as much as possible. And then that's, I think, partly what's going on with all that, too.
Senator Surovell, let's get to how this will actually go down. Right now with Glenn Sturtevant backing Judge Roush, you've got 21-19 in favor of her, I would imagine, in the state Senate, so you got a majority. So what happens now? How does this play out?
Well, it's actually 2020 with Senator Sturtevant. I'm not sure any other...
2020.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody other Republican has signed on yet. But if nothing happens, then we adjourn sine die, and the governor probably reappoints her, I guess. Unless some other deal is cut and there's some horse trading that goes on in the end. that right now we're at stalemate because I haven't heard about 19 delegates or 18 delegates willing to sign on to her either. So, but my guess is it'll go on for probably the entire session, and there'll be an effort to try and resolve it at the end, and it'll be part of some larger negotiation, I guess. That's my guess is how it'll wash out. I mean, we don't need the distraction. We need to have 7 judges on the court, and if we don't resolve it, the Constitution empowers the governor to resolve it again for a period of time. So that's my guess. Either deal's cut or the governor's back to reappointing her again. I think her term runs out in February. I think the appointment she has right now.
All right, so she's good till then, and then we'll see what happens. So I got 1 more minute, very quickly. On the first day of the new session, 2016, Tommy Norment, Senate Majority Leader, kicks the press, the media, that includes me, out of the bottom floor chamber, sends us up into the gallery. That's a big deal because when you were down on the floor, you had a table there, you could do your business, have your computer on, write your story, get quotations, tap somebody on the shoulder, ask them for something. Now you're up in the gallery. Why can't you guys change that? Because many of us in media are really upset over this. And unfortunately, Scott, I only have half a minute.
We need to change it. We're down here spending $100 billion of taxpayer money, making some very important decisions. We need to do it with maximum transparency and not minimum transparency. The press used to be down there; they could see what was going on. They could sort of see people getting lobbied. They could see sausage being made. And we need to. I think we need to keep it that way. I didn't get to serve in there with the press sitting up there, but I don't think it was that big of an inconvenience, and I know Senator Garrett's going to try and undo it, and I think he'll probably find some support on that. But we need to get the press back down there. From my point of view, I'm not sure why it happened.
What Tommy Norment did is outrageous. I'd love to see this go to the floor and see how many people are going to go on record in kicking the working press out of the Senate bottom chamber. We're out of